loca, nilata, puedo, mael, iwatua, tequio, loca, mael, ya.
This is CCD Emperor News. We are here talking about Anthony Cacace versus Dickens for the WBA super featherweight title. Them being in the same weight class as Navarrete. That's a pretty big deal, of course. And we have other fights coming up, like Nonito Donaire, him fighting for the WBA title eliminator at bantamweight. That's a very, very interesting topic as well. I'm going to cover base on a variation of other topics because this weekend is loaded. And so, first off, we need to start with Cacace versus Dickens. Not only does Cacace have the size advantage, reach, he has a brutality to his way of fighting, and that is a brutality that Dickens has not been in the ring with, and Dickens is going to get boxed up and broken. Of course, we can also talk about Bam Rodriguez moving up in weight to fight Antonio Vargas, and that should be a good fight. I honestly think that Bam Rodriguez has the skill to destroy anyone at 118 pounds, and I believe it's only a matter of time before Bam Rodriguez ends up at 122 and challenging So, well, that's if Inui doesn't get hurt versus Nakatani. We have to wait and see and how that transpires. So we will have to look at things from all angles. We also have the Zuffa incursion, as we should call it this. The sanctioning body's war against Zuffa, and is it justified? Most definitely. We have to look at it. All the sanctioning bodies have their rules, from the WBA, the WBC, the WBO, the IBF, a whole lot of them. Look at it. They all have their rules. And if you're a champion, it is your job to inquire to each individual sanctioning body. Because that is an organization in which you're representing as a world champion. You know, that's no joking matter. And, you know, I see a rising tide of fighters who think they don't have to inquire about anything. Terrence Bud Crawford, Shakur Stevenson. Look at all these guys. They all have the same patterns. So we have to look forward to the good fights as well. We have Arnold Barboza versus Sims. Not like that fight's gonna do any good, right? I mean, we could talk about how Barboza's skill will pay dividends in this fight. But he's gonna need some pop if he wants to get back into the picture. Yeah, this is a 12-rounder and all that stuff, but he needs to execute if he wants to get back into the title picture, and we will see in the coming months. So we must look forward to all these things. It's very simple across the board. You can't look past a lot of these fights. I mean, look at, for example, Koyazo, right? He's fighting this weekend. A good fight. Defending his belt. Of course, we can also talk about a whole line of things. From Zuffa absolutely embarrassing themselves this weekend, or this whole entire week, man. It's been hilarious. Oscar De La Hoya absolutely destroying these people. What's up, Cholo? This is some good stuff, man. We're also keeping up with this whole entire situation with these fighters who are just running off, trying to join Zuffa, breaking their contracts. We're gonna see on some of this stuff, because we saw people like your boys Shakur Stevenson. Can we trust his loyalty, boy? Because there's some rumors starting to circulate. What's next? Shakur versus some, I don't know, boiler room worker? I mean, there's a lot of things going on, bro. But if you honestly think that Shakur Stevenson going to Zuffa is best for his career. Well, I would actually believe you because I think you're as silly as Shakur is. And that's the facts. Of course, there's some clowns. There's always a clown that wants to embarrass themselves. And Dana White, you do that every day of your life, bro. Light work, easy cooking. From the North Pole to the South Pole, from the Western Hemisphere to the Eastern Hemisphere, latitude and longitude, easy work. Of course, I'm very excited over the epic victory on Sunday, and I about had a heart attack a couple times this week because some news that came in about some personal things, but you know that's everyday life right there. So if you can adapt and overcome, what will you ever achieve? Think about that. Because Alexander the Great himself once said, in the end, the only thing that matters is what you have done. So this is what I'm going to do. We're going to make sure this CCD International wing is going to absolutely blow up boxing, put Mexican boxing on the map on a scale never seen before. That is the vision. That is the goal. There's levels to this. And this is a crusade for the whole entire sport. In times where people are swayed by men with money and mad people just looking for control when they have no interest in the financial well-being of the fighters, and they want to think, oh, it's all right. I guess that's just how they play the game, bro. Yeah, the clown show has to end for all these clowns who think that the Zuffa boxing is good for the sport. What is wrong with you people? Screw over the fighters. That's not the way to go, bro. You're giving them an inconsistent pay scale with only a handful of fighters that get multi-million paydays. Stupid business model, Dana. Uncle Fester, his mind is rotted out through all the horrible business dealings he's done in the past. He has no morals, he has no ethics, and he will never be able to put his foot down in the sport of boxing and actually do good business and be known as a good promoter in the sport. Yeah, he's given these certain names a show, Opataya, but he hasn't fulfilled his promise of having the Zuffa belt and the IBF belt both on the line in his fight against Galantin. And we knew that Dana wouldn't be recognizing the other sanctioning bodies and all that other stuff, already playing shitty games. So don't be surprised if the sanctioning body's like, well, this is going to be your severance pay. We're going to take our money and then we're going to step back and say, you know, we're going to have to sever ties at this point because we got to take your belt away because you crossed that line. You alone, you are the one who absconded and ran off to the other side to join the enemy. So don't be surprised if they're not going to allow you to represent them. You know, when it comes to the sanctioning bodies in the sport, they're very strict about that. And people just want to overcomplicate things and be like, oh, how much money here? And, oh, but the Ring magazine said these fights would be the best ever if they were to happen. Like, people are so motivated by the American Boxing Association of America, like the Boxing Writers Association of America, bro. This is hilarious. They read magazines and they pretend like they're experts or something. They're an expert of ignorance. That's what they're an expert of. They're an expert of not telling people the truth of what's going on in the sport and how sometimes they may blackwash in order to make one race seem like they're better than the other. However, there is a whole line of things into what makes this whole entire boxing business all political, and that's one of the things that does make this stuff entertaining. So we look at it from all angles and we say, you know, this is exactly what boxing is. And, you know, I have my own, and people know my feelings about Turkey Al-Sheikh. And all the funding to Zuffa to start a whole swoop in America with the sanctioning bodies. And I love how there's a Netflix MMA card with Ronda Rousey on it, and I just find that hilarious as well. And I find it interesting troll, especially with MVP being the promoter of that event. So I kind of figured that if the best way to troll a businessman is to establish yourself as a competitor in the market in which he thrives in. And that is a good epic troll by a Jake Paul. Well done, even though that you got your jaw jacked by Anthony Joshua. As much as I'd love to see Jake Paul take on Joshua in a rematch and get permanently sparked out. We just have to look at what's really going on in the sport. I mean, it's looking entertaining. Cacace and Dickens, the winner of that could move on to fight Navarrete. That's always a good title unification possibility, as long as Navarrete is able to get past Charlie Suarez or somehow get a draw again. So we have to wait and see on that. And there's just a lot of epic fights this weekend. I think Koyazo, he's done a hell of a job as a fighter, and he's doing a good job as a champion, and that's exactly what you want to see from a champion from any weight class, is somebody with skill, power, precision, and he never fails to strive for excellence, which is what you need in the sport of boxing. So these low-tier clowns who think they can talk all the garbage they want to about, the sport of boxing and what they want to make happen in the sport of boxing, they're nothing but people with control issues. Those people that I'm talking about are some of the people that would be picking the rankings in this new Zuffa model that people are so excited for. Like, why would I take the word of a reporter to select rankings in the sport of boxing? A pundit. I don't trust Mike Coppinger or Dan Raphael to choose name me the top 10 fighters at 154 pounds. That's stupid. And the clown show has to end. Now, there are some updates with these clowns. Alright, we were able to see that Jazza Dickens, he was able to make weight. I believe he came in at the 129.1, and Anthony Cacace came in at 129.5, which is good. We knew Cacace would be a little heavier and having that taller and wider frame. And with all that being said, you can't outdo the greatness of the Apache, Anthony Cacace. Like, that guy, he has like this physicality, a tenacity to him. Go watch the Cordina fight. It's like watching a guy beating up a show off in front of his fans in some alley somewhere or something. It's hilarious. So it's exactly what you want from the sport. So we are definitely looking up fights this weekend. We are going to definitely see what's good, because we know that Donaire is fighting for the WBA or the WBA final eliminator at bantamweight, which is perhaps another road for redemption, and that will be taking place this weekend. That ought to be a very, very good fight, of course. We have the fight tomorrow with Barboza and Sims, and that fight card also has Oscar Collazo, so I believe there's boxing tonight, because I saw that there's a few good cards that I was looking up, but I'm not for sure if other people have the same networks as I do. It looks like there's a fight card on tonight. The main event is okay. I believe this is the fight card with Lopez and Gaye. I believe Najee Lopez is on this fight card. Yeah, so Najee Lopez versus Gallegos. I believe this is the Pro Box card. And that's going to be live from Osceola Heritage Park in Kissimmee, Florida. So you can't go wrong with that. So you got a beat down in Disney World today. We got a brawl in Dublin tomorrow. And then we got a showdown in the land of the rising sun with Donaire. What else could you ask for in a great weekend of boxing? This is the CCD Emperor Tokens. Signing out.